Welcome back. This is the 28th segment out of 63 in our series Because It's True, making the case for Christianity in bite-sized pieces. Now, we have emphasized the fact that there are two issues that are absolutely crucial that have to be addressed as we attempt to establish the credibility of the Christian faith. Two questions on which the faith either stands or falls. The first is the identity of Jesus. Was he who he claimed to be? Is he who Christians claim him to be? Was he God incarnate, deity? And the second is the resurrection. Did Jesus bodily come back to life and walk out of the tomb? Now, with the first question, there was a preliminary concern that had to be addressed because there are some people who maintain that Jesus never existed. Therefore, the question of his identity is moot. With the resurrection, there's also a preliminary issue that has to be addressed, and that is, did he actually die? He was an historical figure. He was crucified, but did he actually die? Obviously, if he didn't die, there was no resurrection. Now, 29 years and 6 months ago, as of this recording, an article was released in the news, which the headline read, "Medical Article Disputes Jesus Christ's Death and Resurrection." And here's what it said. An article published Saturday in a British medical journal challenges one of the fundamental tenets of Christianity, that Jesus Christ died on the cross and was resurrected. The article in the Journal of the Royal College of Physicians says that those who do not accept the biblical account must consider the possibility that Jesus faked his death in a premeditated bid to survive crucifixion. He may have undergone syncope, loss of consciousness caused by a temporary deficiency of blood supply to the brain, and is more likely to have been resuscitated than resurrected. Now, here you hear the introduction of what is known as the swoon theory. Those who do not accept the account of the crucifixion in the Gospels, the article said, must consider, quote, whether the whole episode was planned by Jesus and his followers, possibly at the Garden of Gethsemane, where the Bible says Judas betrayed Jesus, that the death would be feigned so that early removal from the cross might be secured. Now, here you have the suggestion, which is actually mentioned in another form, of a conspiracy among the disciples to pull off a resurrection hoax. The report was authored by Dr. Trevor Lloyd Davies, a retired physician and former chief medical advisor to Britain's Department of Employment, and his theologian wife, Margaret. Founded in 1518, the London-based Royal College of Physicians is a leading medical institution. It is involved in postgraduate medical training and frequently publishes reports which are studied widely by other medical authorities. So here you have a prestigious publication willing to entertain this theory by Dr. Davies. There was no immediate reaction to the article from Christian leaders. Davies' article suggests that the flogging Jesus received before crucifixion led to his early collapse on the cross, and that appearing dead, he was taken down much sooner. Now, here is the assumption that the Romans could not tell the difference between someone who had actually died and someone who had not. St. Luke's Gospel in the Bible says, "It was about the 6th hour, and there was a darkness over all the earth until the 9th hour. And the sun was darkened, and the veil of the temple was rent in the midst. And when Jesus cried out in a loud voice, he said, 'Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit.' And having said thus, he gave up the ghost." Davies' article contends that those watching the crucifixion, quote, "were in no doubt that he had died. Death from crucifixion usually took from 3 to 4 days. His ashen skin and immobility were mistaken for death. The cry may not have been any more than a loud expiration preceding syncope." In other words, there's this loud expiration, this gasp, which is mistaken for a complete compound sentence. Oxygen supply, as I continue to quote from the news article that's quoting from the Dr. Davies article, oxygen supply to the brain maintained minimal but above the critical level until the circulation was restored when he was taken down from the cross and laid on the ground. As Jesus showed signs of life, he was not placed in a tomb, but taken away and tended, unquote. The article adds, quote, Jesus' latter appearances, whether real or supposed, are not compelling evidence for or against resurrection or resuscitation. The fact that there are, in other words, eyewitness accounts of his appearances is of no great consideration. It is said his followers must have been under intense psychological pressure and may have undergone, quote, a transmarginal inhibition, a state of activity of the brain in which hysterical suggestibility occurs. In other words, hallucinations. Not just individual hallucinations, but crowded hallucinations. It's interesting to explore, did the resurrection actually take place or not, and do we have reason to believe that it did?